Hello, everybody. Welcome. I think most of you know that I'm David Jaeger. What a coincidence. It's so good for you to join us for this culminating event of what has been a 3-day residency here at the Canadian Music Centre. The Ontario region of the CMC. I mean, this building houses both the national headquarters as well as CMC Ontario. They came up with this idea of offering their facilities for composers and performers to work on, to develop, to put the finishing touches on their repertoire. And this has been a fantastically successful program. It's actually my third residency, so I can speak from experience. What it does is it puts a really kind of fine a bunch of facilities at the service of people who are, just on the verge of getting things ready for dissemination out in the world. So in my case, I guess the question is, why the viola? I'm going to share some facts with you. Did you know? You probably didn't know. I'm sure you didn't know. I've composed, with today's premiere, 23 works for the viola. Can you imagine? How could this happen? And with tonight's premiere of the most recent sonata, 4 sonatas, I guess if I was Hindemith, this would be considered reasonable. But no, I'm not Hindemith. So I'll just share with you that a couple of contributing facts behind this phenomenon. I write other music, by the way. I write for the piano, I write for the voice, I write for lots of other instruments. Actually, Christina Petroska-Quilico is here, and she's played a lot of my piano music. So it's not just a hang-up on the viola, but it started when I was a toddler. My mother played the viola. My mother also raised 6 children. I'm the second of 6. And when she started raising her family, sadly, she stopped playing. But I think I must have been 2 or 3, or the most maybe 4, wandering about the house, looking in closets. I discovered these boxes, these wooden boxes, and there was if you leave an instrument sitting for long enough, like the bow hair starts to unravel, and it finds the crevices, the little spaces, and it creeps out. So there are these boxes and this hair coming out, and very mysterious. I asked my mom, I said, "Well, those are my violas," so the viola kind of had a mystique from a very early age. Then, in my professional career, I started meeting some really fabulous violists. First amongst them, I suppose, Rivka Golani. Many of you know this name. Rivka Golani lives in the UK now, but she was in Canada, I think, from 1979 until around sometime mid-90s or so. She now teaches at Trinity Laban Conservatory of Music and Dance in Greenwich, in the UK. But so I met Rivka, and I was working at CBC at the time. Most of you know, I spent 40 years as a music producer at CBC. There's a little mini bio in your program. If you didn't know, it tells a few facts about me. But I had this show called 2 New Hours, and God love it, I had a production budget. And so I was one of the first people to offer Rivka employment when she emigrated to Canada. And she came in, and with a big stack of music, she made an appointment. She and her viola came, and this big stack of music, she plopped it down on my desk, and we went through every single score. We made one stack, which was interesting, and another stack, much bigger, not interesting. And this began a relationship where I started recording new viola music with her, and it wasn't long after this kindled this relationship, she started saying, well, will you write me a piece? And, well, I said yes. And then after that, another piece. And after that, I think out of those 23 pieces, I think at least half of them were written for Rivka. So when back to my mother, when she turned 70, and I had sort of gotten my compositional sea legs, I decided, well, I would write a viola piece for her in her honor. And this is by way of kind of prefacing the first piece on tonight's program you're going to hear. My mother at the time had a wonderful collie. His name was Tristan. And she had a little tabby cat, and her name was Isolde. And so to celebrate my mother's 70th birthday, actually it was another fabulous violist, Neil Grip, who at the time was principal viola with Montreal Symphony. He asked me, did I have anything, did I know of any unplayed works? And I thought, and no, I think everything that's come across my desk, we produced it, we recorded, we broadcast, and then I thought, wait a minute, there is the possibility. This piece I'm going to write for my mom, I could write it for you. So I did, and the premiere was in Nepean, in the Nepean Public Library, back in 1992. So, and then, so the final chapter on this tale is that now there's a whole cohort of younger players, and not only have they're in the world fully eager for repertoire, and all that stuff I wrote for Rivka has now been consumed, and some of it's been recorded, and they're asking for new pieces. So amongst them, well, maybe you've seen, there's actually 2 recordings already out there of entirely my viola music. One with Elizabeth Reed, Canadian living in Vermont. Another with Carol Gimbel, who lives in New York but was a permanent resident for a time in Canada. And now, the Ezra Duo. I met the Ezra Duo when they were at Glen Gould School some 4 or 5 years ago. I heard them a few times at the Arts and Letters Club. And of course, not being a particularly shy person, I immediately said, I've got a lot of viola music. And God love them, they were receptive. They were open to this. And they played my first sonata, which, oh yes, okay, just to avoid confusion, Sonata Tristan and Isolde was the first sonata that I wrote for the viola, but it doesn't have a number. It's Sonata Tristan and Isolde. And really, I mean, it's more of it's one of the smaller pieces. It's more in the nature of a sonatina, but sonatina, Tristan and Isolde, no, it doesn't work. So it's Sonata Tristan and Isolde, 3-movement piece. And so and we'll hear that first in just a moment. To put into context, when I set about to write Sonata number 1, like a substantial piece, which will be the second piece on the program, I really had this very much in mind that I hadn't yet really written a viola sonata, and I wanted to challenge myself with a proper, a big piece. And in fact, Sonata number 1 is the biggest piece on the program you'll hear tonight. But we'll get there in just a moment. But I think time has come to welcome Jacob and Sasha, the Ezra Duo, to play Sonata Tristan and Isolde. Thank you, Jacob and Sasha. Just, it's an amazing duo. You know, I guess the sign of a really successful duo is, you know, you can tell they excel in mind reading. So much individual voices, but a unified duo. It's been wonderful working with them. And I guess you probably noticed a kind of sentimental style of writing in that piece. I guess because you know it's the history, you understand one would not write a lot of dissonant intervals for one's mother's 70th birthday. So the circumstances. Oh, and maybe you spotted the Tristan chord. I don't assume anything, but it's there, just in the third movement. You know, and okay, one final note on Sonata Tristan and Isolde. So there's one movement for the dog, one movement for the cat, and one for them all romping together. So there we go. I've said it. Okay, Sonata number 1. So this is I don't want to speak the case, but it has a very complex structure. And I think actually in my entire canon of compositions, it's maybe the single most complex structure. It's in 3 movements. However, so the first movement, rather than in a usual sonata, you know, you expect a big exposition and, you know, lots of important thematic material. Well, the first movement is really an introduction. It's quite short. Second movement is titled. And by the way, I'm sorry. You can't really read the fine print in the program, but the movements are listed here. Second movement is Allegro Bizarro, and this was now a time in my writing career when I started to accept the influence of literature into my creative process. It wasn't quite, you know, running rampant yet, but it was getting close. And I had met a number of fabulous poets, including David Cameron, who has cast a very large presence over these later works. But David wrote a poem called, and I didn't produce it here because it's not quite literal, but the poem is called Nothing. And it depicts one of those moments when, you know, with an adolescent child feeling very negative about pretty much everything. And so the second movement is marked Allegro Bizarro, and lots of bizarre things happen in this second movement. It's a kind of a rondo, but it always comes back to these kind of conflicting kind of events that happen. And then in the third movement, things get really complicated. So first we have a little recitativo and a kind of a maybe Schnittke-esque kind of musings, mysterious, smoky, followed by molto presto, which goes like a bat out of hell, and then we come back and we have a coda. So really, there's 3 movements in one in this third movement. So it's like a 5-movement piece, I guess, in essence, you could say. I think I've said enough about it. You got to hear this piece. It's really, and it's the longest piece on the program tonight, just so you know. Okay, so Sonata number 1. Aren't they amazing? These they can play anything that I could possibly write for them, and I'll have more to say about that before the last piece. Okay, so do you see what I mean? Like, that's a real viola sonata, right? Could never call that a sonatina. That's a serious sonata. Okay, so and the interpretation, I'll just pause here to say, this is a fresh interpretation. This is they played it. I guess it was maybe 2 years ago at the Arts and Letters.
Like 5.
Oh, that long ago. Yeah, and it's come thanks to this residency and just the magic that time works. It's entered an incredible interpretive place that it's just heartrending for me, frankly. Okay, so Sonata number 2. Carol Gimbel asked me for a sonata in 2022, and a couple of things were happening in my creative wheelhouse at that time. First of all, I had really become driven by poetry. I had, a few years before this, I had made it kind of a personal self-improvement project that I've done electronics, I've done complexity, I've done modernism. One thing I realized I'd never really put my mind in fully to was melody. How that happened, I don't know, but so I said, I'm gonna make a positive effort to upgrade my own skills at melody, and I actually started with a solo cello piece, which I struggled with, but then I actually started that cello piece 3 times, but it happened. But it wasn't long before I realized I was going to be writing melodies for the voice, and if I'm going to write for singers, I'm probably going to need some words, because vocalese only gets you so far. And I've been meeting some wonderful sopranos about that time. Christina Haldane, chief amongst them. And so then I did a cycle of her dad's poems, Sean Haldane, the late Sean Haldane, great English-Canadian poet. And he introduced me to David Cameron. And here's where things got really interesting, because David Cameron's poetry is so innately musical. I like to say I read a lot of poetry because I love poetry. And I also say I forget a lot of poetry, because if it doesn't contain that kind of inherent music, I'm never going to remember that poetry. But the converse is true. If there's music in there, I won't be able to leave it alone. And so when Carol asked for this sonata, so I was already like almost 100% driven by text. So I would write these melodies. I'd usually write them first for the soprano, and then I'd have the pure melody, and then I'd then cast them in instrumental form. So this was just in time for this next sonata. This is another shorter piece. You might call this one a sonatina as well, but it has 4 movements. And I got after this first piece, the first sonata, I was very intrigued by longer movement forms. So 4 movements, and each one is kind of like just like a song, like the melody set for viola and piano, and because it's dark in this room, I wasn't planning to read these poems, and I don't know if it's going to take too long. Should I read the poems? Are you raring to go? Okay, so the first one is For Winter. These are poems by David Cameron. I thought my love for winter lost, till your insomniac eyes of frost burned into me, so pure and clear, with slow abandonment of fear. Second movement is Sometimes the Summer. Sometimes the summer appears in other seasons, as today I was settling down to winter when it began. So I walk across the fields, connecting the years, summers that have been, and met you here, met you there, eyes glinting like sails last year. Thank you, I want never again to settle into winter like snow. Here are the same fields and fences, the earth that will invite the lambs to dance, water with something clear to say. Then we have the red deer, it's kind of a dialogue between man and nature. The red deer took one look and sized me up. I played for time, backed off, kept my head low. Wind through the winds, the narrowness of fate. Time can't be played for on the moors. The fate the red deer left me's not to know. Was she the truth, the arrow, or the gate? And then finally, a blessing. I call a blessing down on your head, a shadow's moving in the oyster bed. I hear a whisper in the loudest room. I see an angel perched on my tomb. Angel, oh angel, put down your pen. Have I loved enough? Will I see her again? I think it's time for some music. Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, so now it all comes down to this. When I don't know what struck me to just mention to Jacob a few months ago, what if we did a concert with all my viola sonatas? And before he had a chance to answer it, and if you're interested, I'll write a new piece. Like, we'll have a world premiere as well. And I don't know, I guess...
We can't say no to that. David Jaeger writing us a new sonata? Heck yeah.
So, as you've by now come to realize, we have two stunning virtuosi here. They're a wonderful duo, but they're soloists in their own right. And by this time I knew I could write anything and they'd be able to play it. And so when I started, okay, so first of all, the 4-movement sonata form, I really there's something about it I really was quite fond of through the evidence of the previous piece. And so, but I thought, well, okay, I'm going to write a 4-movement sonata, but it'll be a big piece. And again, by this time, I probably had set between 50 and 60 of David Cameron's poems. So I had this, this heavy bundle of melodies waiting to be just, tempting me to apply them. And so I felt, well, I can do a big 4-movement sonata and use these melodies. And not all of Cameron's poems are short. There's some pretty long ones too. I don't think I will actually take time to read them all because the evening is... I want to get to this piece, but I'll give you the titles. So Reserved, What Were You Like Back Then, Reserved, My Heart Went Out to You, etc. This is kind of like an observation of another person seeing within a person who's outwardly reserved the inner passion kind of simmering and getting ready to boil. So that's what happens in the first one. The second movement is O Gentle Lady, and this starts very gently but is heading in a not so gentle direction. This is a little observation about Lady Macbeth. So kind of murderous. Not so gentle, really. Then we have The Burden. The third movement is the recognition of something missing in a person's life. I carry the burden of the stairs up to the landing, the little alcove, find gathering there brown leaves from an open window. It's a reflection on something absent, loss and absence. And, it does find a resolution, but it's not a place to end. And where we end is Your Sage Green Dress. So these first 3 movements come from places where the poet is observing outwardly external things, but this last movement calls for action, and it's called Your Sage Green Dress. And I think I actually will read this one if you'll indulge me. It's not the longest poem in the set. So I want to see you, yes, in your sage green dress, and under no duress to act with any swiftness in your sage green dress. You have a measured wildness that will be more, not less, in your sage green dress. Do you feel the wind's caress? Do you feel my mind's caress in your sage green dress? I want you, yes, in your sage green dress, in your sage green dress. So let's have it, guys. Thank you so much. I must thank the Canadian Music Centre once again for making this possible. My artistic collaborators, wow, just incredible. I can't thank you enough. And maybe I'll write you another piece. Maybe, how about a concerto? And the staff here have been fantastic. It's just been such an incredibly positive experience these past several days. Now, we have a reception. There's pizza. The bar is open. So food and drink, chance to share reflections, thoughts, reactions. Or if you hated it, you can tell me that too. I don't know. You let me know. Anyway, please stay and enjoy the refreshments in the lounge. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.